Hello, everyone. My name is Sonja Tomaskovic, and I work in research and development. My background is in experimental physics. I have a PhD in biomedical engineering, and basically I work with schools of physical sciences and technology. These are my uh, um, main schools that I work with, and PhD students I support and work with.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Gilliam. I am the researcher developer for the arts, humanities and social sciences here at Cambridge. My background is somewhere between political theory and philosophy. Did a PhD at Royal Holloway, University of London. And as my title suggests, I specialise in the research and development of students in the arts, humanities and social sciences.
Okay, so you might think, why are we here? Why is this? Why are we recording this? Well, I guess we live in this really strange and crazy times due to COVID-19, and we all have to figure out how to work from home. From my personal experience, I can say I find it quite difficult. I love working with other people. During my PhD, I was experimentalist, so it was all about, being in a lab, doing experiments, working again with other people, technicians, other PhD students, and so on. And now, even in this job, again, we work as a team. We do lots of things together, and I find it's the most stimulating environment. So working from home on occasion is great. A little treat that you can do things at your own pace and kind of peace and quiet, and complete tasks that maybe require a little bit of more focus. But on general, I do like working with people. So staying at home, it can be quite daunting. I don't know, Christian, how is it for you in the respect?
Yeah, I mean, from a professional perspective, as to say, from the perspective of my working life, it's very strange because work in a shared office. I'm seeing my team frequently, so it's quite a thing to adjust to. But I'm just thinking from the perspective of a PhD student, in the arts, humanities, especially, your chances are you usually work alone and you're doing a lot of writing and reading alone. So you might infer from that that there's not much difference, but actually even there's a huge difference with the current situation, because it's those small interactions we have that give us the energy and the motivation to go on. So even if it's just a quick hello to someone in the corridor outside the office, or if it's just grabbing a coffee with a friend, or cycling to the library together, being able to go for a drink afterwards, or just hang out in the park afterwards, little things like that have a tremendous effect on us. Even for those of us who are accustomed to working alone, perhaps even at home for hours on end, it has a big effect. And certainly I fall into that category. I like to work alone sometimes when I'm writing, if I'm doing something quite intense, but yeah, not being around my colleagues, not being able to just have a coffee with them is strange. Yeah, definitely. And not having my office space too, very strange.
Yeah. So yeah, it seems that irrespective of your kind of backgrounds and type of research that you do, it's still quite difficult to manage all of these things on your own at the time. So I think what we decided to try to do today, to kind of give you a little bit of introduction, kind of good habits when you're working from home. And see if that can help. It's mostly based on our experiences and what we kind of found that it works for us, and it kind of keeps us going, at least to some extent. I think it's worth of mentioning here that you need to give yourself, first of all, a little bit of time. None of these things will happen immediately. You might need weeks in order to get some sort of yourself in some sort of rhythm that you can produce things. I don't know, for example, if you're writing or whatever you are doing from home at this stage. So it takes time, and I think equally we need to accept that we are just not going to be productive 8 hours a day. It's just not going to happen. It's a very different way of working now. And it's different when you go to a lab again, or an office or a library, and it's very different when you're kind of stuck at home on your own for most of the time. So it's not going to be as productive, and I think we have to kind of acknowledge that and accept that. And I don't think this is expected either. I don't think you will be expected to work 8 hours and write for 8 hours. It would be crazy to think that you can do that anyone can do that. So I think we need to give ourselves a little bit of time to get into the kind of into this writing and working from home, to allow ourselves time to manage that in the kind of as best possible way as we can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. Even let's say that we were just talking about working from home, more generally speaking, and it's the first time you're doing it on a systematic basis. That in itself is challenging because, as you say, you need to find a rhythm, and it's very much, to repeat a similar point I made earlier, it's very much the small things that have quite a profound effect on the way that we work, especially because working patterns tend to be formed on habit. So in changing our environment, our habits is immediately disrupted and we have to form new habits, and that takes time. So that alone is already difficult. But really, we're talking about working from home in the context of a very challenging situation, which is putting us all under a unique form of anxiety and stress, and that is going to interrupt the way that we work too. So it's even more important to take it easy on ourselves, and whilst having drive and direction and something to work on is a saving grace in that situation, it gives us a way to temporarily at least avoid the anxiety and things. We have to also be cautious not to overburden ourselves with those tasks. And if we feel overwhelmed at some point, then it's absolutely, I would say, legitimate and understandable to just back off for a moment. You don't have to work a full 8-hour day. That's not going to be expected. I don't think any mature person would expect that from anyone right now, especially at the beginning of all of this, as we're, as you say, adjusting and finding our rhythm.
Yeah. So what we are going to try to do today, next possibly 10 minutes or so, again, giving just a little bit of our perspective, how you can try to make these habits, new habits, when working from home. And hopefully that can help you to get into the rhythm and establish some sort of working pattern that can still be productive, even if it's not as productive as it was before, or even if it's not productive in your first weeks of working from home. So I think one of the first things that I found really important to establish these kind of work-home boundaries, sort of to find a space where you work. So you wake up, you can dress up, and you go there wherever there is, and just kind of start to work. And in that respect, it can be kitchen table, corner of a bedroom, an attic room, depending on your circumstances. Wherever that is, it's kind of your protected space, a space where you try to work and treat it as such. Equally, kind of the day also I try to treat as usual working day. So I wake up on time, as I say, dress up and start working, and it gives me kind of a structure in terms of when I'm starting to work, and I know what I want to do on the day as well. And equally important, I think it's important to know when you want to finish the work equally, so it doesn't your kind of working day doesn't merge with your home day and the rest time as well. So again, it's really important to establish those boundaries between the work and home in terms of spatial. So where are you working, and also in terms of time, sort of when are you working, define when are you working, and also when are you not working. And I don't know, Christian, if you have anything to kind of add in terms of working from home in kind of space and time.
No, I completely agree. Actually, I learned this hard lesson during my PhD days, and it took me quite a while to catch on. But it's the days of the week where I didn't really have to go into the university. I wasn't teaching and things like that. My supervisor was pretty laissez-faire, and I quite liked working from home. But I took that a bit too casually, and I would just sort of, wake up leisurely with a leisurely attitude, and I'd get out of bed to make a cup of tea or coffee, go back into bed, check my phone, watch some YouTube videos. And before I know it, I've burnt about an hour. Then I'll go and get breakfast. And then about sort of 10 a.m. and I haven't had a shower yet. I haven't got dressed yet. I'm still in my dressing gown. I get the laptop out and then I try to work. And it was impossible. I was just so sluggish. Actually, I found, and the situation right now is certainly proving the case, I found that following a routine as if you were going into the office, as you said, is amazing for just getting me in the right mindset. So waking up at my usual time, getting out of bed first and foremost, having a shower, then putting the coffee on, having some breakfast. I talk with my partner for a bit over breakfast, and we're reading the news and we're talking about that, whatever. And then I set up shop in the living room. So I get the screen out for my computer. I put that on the table. I get the books out, and I go through this whole ritual. So by the time I open the computer, I'm checking my emails or writing, I'm in the work mindset, and I find that my thinking is immediately clear, or at least clearer than it would have been had I just sort of been relaxed and laissez-faire about it. So structure has such a big importance to getting us in the right state of mind for working.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I kind of can relate to that as well in terms of PhD days, kind of, waking up whenever you want and starting whenever you want and finishing whenever you want as well. And kind of everything merges. You don't know really when are you working, when you're not working. And it can be quite difficult. Now, when this is all kind of has to be done from home, I think it's even more difficult. So it's really important that you try to kind of separate those two things, work and home. And that's why kind of having a little kind of corner where you work is the best way to do it. And again, treating your days as if you are going to work in your labs or library or office and so on. Another thing I think it's really important to kind of plan your day. Again, as if you would, as you would do that probably if you're going to work in an office or a lab, you would do the same thing, right? You would kind of write a plan, like write your to-do list of things that you want to achieve in a day or a week or even a month, depending on what kind of stages you are in your PhD. And you would kind of do that. So I would say do the same thing at home as well. The only difference would be realistic with what you can achieve. It will be different than, again, we talked about it. It will be different than in your office or a lab. So try to be realistic about how much actually you can do in a day when you're, only have your computer or laptop and you're working on your own. So I would say start smaller, so kind of underestimate what you can do, because at least if you do those tasks, you will feel much more encouraged and positive about, oh, well, I've done that, so I'll move on to my to-do list of tomorrow or the week after or so. And it's going to be much more productive than if you're focusing and have this big kind of grand plan for a day and you achieve 30% of it, then it's going to be demoralizing to actually do something about it. Another thing I would say in terms of planning, and again, that's a good practice either from home or anywhere else if you're working, to kind of understanding yourself a little bit, understanding when are you the most productive. And we are productive at different times of the day. Some people work better in the morning, some at evening, some of you might be in the middle of the day, and that's okay. There is no the right time to work. It's just whatever is most productive for you. And once you know what those productive times are, then try to structure your day around those and kind of try to do those difficult jobs in those productive times. For example, writing is a difficult job, so try to use those couple of hours that you can write, for example. And in less productive times, you can use for the less demanding tasks. You can, respond to your email, maybe organize your referencing and literature, start kind of noting down, things you want to read, papers you want to kind of pick up and so on. So there's still things you can do and be productive in a day, but not necessarily you won't be able to produce 3,000 words of text that you want to do. Okay, so kind of recognizing these things, it can already be helpful, and you can already make some sort of progress in your day-to-day lives just by recognizing when are you productive and kind of putting some sort of goals on the paper that kind of keeps you going.
Yeah, absolutely. Times of the day, it's going to be different for every person, but we can't be expected, any of us, we can't be expected to work consistently throughout the whole day. We're gonna fluctuate throughout the day, and I would even say that on an individual case, certain times a day are more conducive to certain types of activity. Yeah. So it might be the case, that in the morning, for example, is a great time to write, and then maybe in the afternoon, that's when you want to do your emails or just sort of, I don't know, say research housekeeping. So just cleaning up the references, whatever else, or vice versa. Some people work very well at night because they find it more peaceful, whatever else. And again, that's fine. You do what works for you. And be cautious, I would say, of unhelpful working habits. And I say be cautious of it because habits, by virtue of being a habit, have a way of sticking with us, even if they're not necessarily productive. And we can lose sight of that. So it's good also to just spend a bit of time just reflecting on yourself and seeing how you're doing. And if there's a certain practice that's not really working for you, just change it up. Just try something different, even if it's a small case of just within the confines of your house or flat or whatever, just going to a different room for a little while. If you can do that, it's not always going to be possible, but if you can do that, even if it's just to go into the bedroom for an hour to read. I'm doing that at the moment, and my partner, she's doing some stuff from home too, and we only have one bedroom that we share in a living room, so we have to be quite flexible with each other. But actually we found it swapping over at some point, so she'll go to the living room, I'll go to the bedroom, works for us too. It's mutually beneficial because we're just changing the scenery, so that can be helpful too. So yeah, times of day, types of activity, how and where you work.
Mm-hmm. And I would just add, as being an experimentalist, it's all trial and error. You have to try different things. This is all new for all of us. You just need to try out different things. Again, what Christian was saying, different places, different times of the day, and so different activities, and find what suits you, what works for you. It's not going to be 9 to 5. It's definitely not going to be 9 to 5. It's going to be a very new way of working, and you need to figure out individually what works for you. And then when you find that, the recipe, then stick to it, as long as it's working for you. If it doesn't, then again, you try different things and change it a little bit, shake it up a bit. Okay. I think another thing to kind of touch, first of all, with your supervisors, but I would extend it to other PhD students and researchers within your labs and offices and so on. It's first of all, it's great to maintain this contact in order to keep motivation, because all of you will be in the same position. All of you will be, in case if you're doing experiments, you will be out of the labs. If you're going to library because you have text to read, you'll be out of the libraries. So it's all new for everyone. So I think keeping in touch is kind of maintaining kind of this kind of mental health in a way, and just kind of motivation. It keeps motivation up. On the other side, also keeping in touch with your supervisor. I would say you really ought to organize these things if it's already not organized for you. Again, try to organize those meetings with people like supervisor and others from your labs at times that suit you, if you have any kind of oversight of when are you meeting people, and with your supervisor particularly share your plans, what you want to do, let them know what the deadlines you gave to yourself, what do you want to achieve in a month or a week, and so on. Again, this will help you with motivation. If you commit to someone else, particularly a supervisor, it will be much more difficult to say, oops, yeah, I haven't done that. And then it kind of keeps you going. Again, I would want to emphasize, don't pressure yourself. And if you haven't done something, I'm sure your supervisors and lab mates will understand that, it will be a little bit like this for quite some time for all of us until we figure out how to go on in these very unusual times now.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. And I'll just add that in addition to motivation, keeping in touch with people, not just with supervisor, but with PhD peers, colleagues, friends, is great for the development of your ideas. It's important that we don't neglect the importance of talking about our research, and certainly talking about them in a more informal setting. So if you have some PhD colleagues that you usually have conversations with over coffee, and that could be about supervision or ideas or more kind of general debates, whatever it is, try and sustain those if you can, through phone calls or Skype or whatever, because in my experience, personally and professionally, it is those small informal conversations that are the most beneficial for the development of broader ideas, abstract thinking. I usually get those light bulb moments in those conversations, and it's very easy for us to lose that working from home. We have to make a bit more of an effort to reach out to people so we can create the space in which that can happen. So that's another reason to stay in touch with people. It's going to be healthy for your research overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of to add to that, really, that you nailed that one, really. I forgot to mention it, but sometimes just having this coffee or lunch, as we have in our department, lots of kind of great ideas come out of it. You go for lunch just to relax, talk about politics or something, like irrelevant things in life, but then something comes out and really great things happen afterward. So it's important to maintain this contact also, because some great stuff might come out as well, even though it's not face to face, but it is in a different way face to face, I guess. Yeah. It's a different way, I suppose, in working and living, and it's just we need time for that. Now, talking about all of these things, I would the next point we were discussing, it's again very important. Don't forget to kind of take care of yourself. Don't forget to take breaks. What I found sometimes challenging when working from home is either I really struggle to wake up and actually do anything, so the structure helps with that. But on the other side, I can go completely other direction. I just can't tear myself away from the work as well. And it's really important that you actually have this balance in sort of knowing when you work, when you're not working, but also when you are working, that you have the regular breaks to, to kind of grab a tea, coffee, lunch, chat with a friend or a partner or whatever, or go in a park if you're able to do that, for a walk, or just refresh your minds a little bit. When you come back, I think just going back to work will be much easier, just because you did a little bit of exercise, and a little bit of fresh air can always help with that. I don't know if you have anything else to add to the having breaks.
Just a little practical tip. I agree with all of that. Take breaks. More is better than less. Take more breaks than fewer breaks if you can. I'm taking them at the minute every, I guess, 40 minutes or so. But the practical tip I want to get onto is just be cautious of caffeine. We're at home. I don't know. Maybe your arrangement's like mine, but I have the kitchen just there. I have an espresso machine, which I'm very fortunate to have. But as a result, I've had a few days where I've probably peaked at 4 coffees, which for me is a lot. And I noticed by the end of the day, my heart is palpitating. I feel more anxious than I should. And of course, we know it's a well-established fact that caffeine can elevate levels of anxiety and stress. So in terms of well-being, just be cautious not to have too much caffeine. As an alternative, and I started doing this last week, you can have decaffeinated coffees, decaffeinated teas, or herbal teas. So you're still doing something on your break. You're putting the kettle on, you're pouring a tea, having something to drink, but you're not putting your nervous system in overdrive as a result. So that's just a little sort of practical tip. It's a mistake I made last week. I was pretty much bouncing off the walls, and it wasn't very beneficial, really.
Well, that's a Dr. Christian for you now. Health advices about health. No, that's great, actually. Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with that. It's important these peculiar times to take care of yourself, your physical health and mental health as well. And hopefully that, we come out all healthy at the end of it, or not as disturbed that we might. Okay, so going back to the kind of good working habits, number 5 is managing distractions. And again, I think for me that's something that I struggle a little bit with. And these distractions at home, there are even more of those than at work. At work, you're with other people, so it's difficult to get distracted on sort of internet and social media. It's much easier to get focus. At home, it's not that there is just internet, social media. There is dishwasher emptying, cleaning your room, and all sorts of calling your mom, whatever, all sorts of other things as well. So it's about kind of figuring out how to manage that. Again, I would say it's not about not doing these things. It's just about doing those in specific times. So, for example, empty your dishwasher in your break, or at the end of the day, and things like that. And also in terms of social media, there are lots of sort of programs one can install and try out, that would kind of block you from particular websites at particular times. So, for example, if you're the most productive, I don't know, from 8 to 10 in the morning, and that's the time you want to writing, then perhaps you can switch off internet or so, or install some of these blockers, internet blockers and app blockers that will allow you not to get distracted with Guardian pop-up news and Instagram photographs of your friends and things like that. So actually you can dedicate time to writing. Yes, that's kind of a short story how to manage the distractions. Some of those I tried, and it does help, at least on a day-to-day basis, to keep myself in check and not spend too much time on internet.
Yeah, you're right. It's just a completely different kettle of fish working from home. The sort of distractions you have to deal with, and mobile phones, social media, clearly big distractions for a lot of people. For me, I keep my phone in a separate room whilst I'm working. So the phone is what I go to grab during my breaks. That's my moment to just see, who's messaged me, just in case, my mum might message me. If I don't reply to her for the whole day, she's going to get worried. So, okay, I check on the break, mum's, send her a WhatsApp back, and whilst I'm waiting for the kettle to brew. So I find that very helpful. Also, when I know I need to do some writing, I switch the emails off, so I'm not getting distracted by that. And also, I would say it's good to communicate with partner, family, friends, whoever you live with. If you live with someone and you have a shared space, just make it clear with them, if you can, what your working schedule more or less is, so they know not to disturb you, or vice versa. You don't want to disturb them either, because if you're in a shared space, you're going to be affecting each other in different ways. So you want to try and establish a dynamic that works best for you both, and that takes a little bit of negotiating and open communication. But as long as you engage with that open communication, I'm pretty confident you'll be more or less successful in managing that space together.
Yeah, I suppose it's not easy. Anything can be distraction at home, and other people as well, as emptying the dishwasher and things like that. So yeah, I suppose I remember when I was writing my thesis, then I did exactly the same. I would switch off emails, I would switch off my mobile telephone, landlines, and so on, and just kind of focus on writing, because I just needed to focus and I couldn't be distracted with all of these things. So it takes a little bit of time to get used to that, because we're all addicted to our mobiles these days. Everything is there. All my brain is, without mobile, I feel lost. So it takes a bit of adjustment to do that, but I think it is the best way in order to kind of manage these distractions and sort of focus at least a few hours a day that you can kind of focus on work, and produce something with that in those 2 hours or few hours. Okay, so I think we almost came to the end. The last bit we already started to talk a little bit about it. Stay connected and be sociable. And we already said do stay connected with your supervisors and lab mates and other researchers from your group, but also stay connected, of course, with your friends and family. And I think now that's more important than ever. It is important to kind of stay social. It's a new way of being social and being connected, I suppose, and new way of socializing with people. It's all online these days. But it's equally important. It's not that it's less important because now we're all at home and so on. I would say on contrary, it's even more important these days, just because lots of you will be on their own all the time. So having this contact with other people outside the research is crucial for your kind of well-being and health in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that wholeheartedly. In fact, I've started talking to friends that I haven't spoken to in years.
Yeah. So me too.
Yeah, right. So that's one of the silver linings of otherwise hideous situation is, it's bringing us virtually, at least, closer together, and we can take great strength from that personally, but also in terms of our work. And I'd also just say, to students watching this that the university is doing everything it can to support you, and certainly here at Research and Development we're here for you. So if you want to send us an email and just talk to us and chat, if you have any concerns at all, like always, we're here to help. We're very much eager to hear from you too. It wouldn't be a burden at all. So yeah, stay in touch, and that includes staying in touch with us. It's what we're here to do. We're here to help you get through it.
Yeah, I think yes, absolutely. And we will, on the last slide, there will be kind of contact address for general research and development, but also we can include our email addresses, so directly we can be contacted by you. So yeah, this is sort of, as we said, we try to give you some ideas of good working habits when working from home. So we discussed a little bit about this work-home boundaries, then about making plans and sort of being clear about your goals, however small they are, but still it's a goal that you want to achieve on a regular basis. Then keeping in touch with your supervisor, your research and lab mates. Not to forget to take breaks, figuring out how to manage these distractions from home, and of course to stay connected and sociable in whatever form that is these days, with the family and friends and kind of wider community as well, just kind of to be connected, to not to feel isolated and or on your own.